Could you build a business that's better for our planet? That's what I have set out to answer. Hi, I'm Marco Pimentel, marketing expert and entrepreneur, and host of the podcast Someone Like You. I've become fascinated in finding creative climate solutions in business, and on the podcast, I break down how founders and CEOs are building climate friendly business solutions that are opportunities for growth while being better for the planet. I wanted to take a second to tell you about our Season 2 sponsor, Springwise. Springwise is the global ESG innovation platform that offers its readers early access to the ideas transforming our world. I actually started using Springwise probably 10 years ago to review innovative startup ideas, and I've been a fan ever since. There are 3 new stories on the site every weekday featuring solutions to some of the biggest challenges we face as a global community. You'll find innovations in climate tech, renewable energy, plastic alternatives, the circular economy, and how we can live a more sustainable life. The stories are sourced and written by the Springwise team of journalists and will give you an inspiring take on what's right around the corner, whether you read it to inform your work or simply for a regular dose of optimism. Springwise sets the innovation agenda. The newsletter is free to access, and to sign up, visit springwise.com/newsletter signup. One garbage truck full of plastic enters the ocean every single minute. Even though the material seems like a facilitator and even an improvement in our daily lives, it is convenient to throw it away without a second thought, and the environment is suffering because of it. It's estimated that by 2050 there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. Today we have an inspiring conversation with David Katz, compassionate entrepreneur and the founder and chairman of Plastic Bank. Recognized globally for his humanitarian work, David has pioneered social recycling, turning that plastic waste into a currency that transcends poverty and safeguards the planet. A social enterprise that empowers a global network of over 500 collection communities, Plastic Bank is exchanging plastic waste as a currency for income and life-improving benefits. Its proprietary blockchain-secured platform ensures traceable collection, secured income, and verified reporting, creating a remarkable structure that is changing the lives of hundreds of families worldwide. David tells us the amazing origin story of the company, how their unique exchange system works, and he delves into the pivotal role of blockchain technology in its mission. Here is our inspiring conversation. David, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Marco.
I'm love to just kind of start with what led you to Plastic Bank in terms of your earlier part of your career, and was there a correlation to, environmentalism, sustainability, and what's happening to our oceans and plastic? Like what led you kind of that spark to be like Plastic Bank and I want to have an impact?
It's a question that I can answer simply and simultaneously has much more depth than I could ever give in the simple answer. And the simple answer, what people want to hear, I grew up in Victoria. I grew up on an island. I began witnessing degradation 40 years ago. I originally started off beachcombing, which was a conversation for looking for things that would wash up on the beach. But then I discovered in the end that what was really washing up on the beach was just people's garbage. And so it was in my mind's eye. And so every time I would go, that was the concept, that was the view of the world. I began making it mean that garbage was washing up on the shore. So 40 years ago, and since, that's what I have been able to be aware of. So that's an origination of the awareness. And I'm not sure if that's what people really want to hear, because really I think that what's deeper inside of it is, what had you begin? What had you drawn? What passion did you find when you said, I would give my life to the solving of this? And that's a different question and a different answer.
And that passion, to go backwards on, entrepreneurship, right? Because we're talking about Plastic Bank, which is a social enterprise, and we'll get into that. How did you, I guess, did you have an inkling of entrepreneurship in you to kind of connect the passion in what you're seeing in the oceans and have that experience in entrepreneurship to kind of tie those together?
Call it entrepreneurship, call it creativity, call it problem solving, call it looking. At the root of it was a sense and the desire and the need to be free, to not be encumbered by the wish of my captor. And this goes back to my childhood. And that origination came from knowing that if I was going to have the life that I chose, that I had to break free to create and be on my own, that there was no one to rely on. And that if it was to be, it was up to me. That's kind of the origination for many in that entrepreneurial journey, that story. And so combine the two, combine the knowing and the seeing, that the space that I would return to, where I found my solace, the ocean's edge. I also came with, if it's to be, it's up to me. Combine those. Now that is still really just an origin, because the journey is the part. The journey is the long, hard, fought battle. And that battle is much more with self than with anything else. And so the story is a journey of self, in our own becoming, in our own being. And what is it? What stories do we need to put down so that we can be unlimited and recreate the very destiny that is due to each and every one of us?
And that destiny was to, create Plastic Bank and be able to use, figure out self. And I it's completely what you mean in the entrepreneurship side of things, because you want to be able to be free to be able to create and to do these ideas, to make these types of change. Plastic Bank, like this is a over 10-year-old company now and social enterprise. What was that first step that you took to, you have a deep root to the ocean. You had to make some sort of kind of connection to both that and business. When was the first kind of like aha moment or spark between those two kind of points?
Well, let's begin with the end in mind a little bit. I'll paint a story first, that we are a worldwide chain of stores. Imagine, if you will, areas of poverty. And if you're listening, and if you've been somewhere with poverty, and you've witnessed people with poverty that live in the condition of less than $2 or $1 a day, ask yourself, what do those people struggle for? What is their life condition like? What do they need? You see people on the base of the hierarchy of needs. Sense of security, safety, stability. What lies in that? Is it security to food? Yes. Is it security to clean water? Yes. Pain medication. Hope, opportunity for their children, education, communications, being a part of a community. Those are the conditions of living in poverty. Feeling alone, with no hope, without the opportunity to solve your own issues. So imagine that. If you've traveled, you're listening, you've traveled, you see those, you've witnessed that. You know that in your heart, that's what's so. That affects the base billion. Now think of those areas where you were that had poverty. Were those places clean? Were they environmentally conscious? Was it sound? Was the place free of garbage? Or was it overwhelmingly full of waste? So much waste that had nowhere to go but flow into the canal, the stream, the river, and find its way to the ocean. I guarantee you that those go hand in hand. And when you have your eyes closed and you think of those areas that have the conditions of people living in poverty with the overwhelming flow of material in the environment, what type of material is it? Is it paper everywhere? Is it organics? No, it's garbage. It's plastic. Plastic waste flowing into the ocean originates from areas of poverty. So we have stores around the world. We operate 7 countries where those stores offer everything that the base of the pyramid needs. Yeah, school tuition, absolutely. Insurance, pain medication, bandages, everything the world needs. But we only accept plastic garbage as money. Kilo by kilo, plastic is a form of currency for the world, using one problem to solve the other. We're now approaching our 12th year, where we affect about 250,000 collectors and their families. We provide banking to the world. It's a blockchain-based banking application that allows the collector to not just be able to buy the things, but it's transacted. And the more transactions, more consistently, you earn a credit score. So we provide 0 interest loans to the world's poor so they can solve their own poverty. Because you cannot donate the end of poverty. And so that's the work of Plastic Bank at large. The work of myself, because that's the conversation here in this podcast, is to become the person that can bring all of that to life. It's to be able to be in the visioning and creation of a yet visible reality, and to live in that reality and invite people to join that reality until it becomes so. And that is not for the meek.
Fortunate to have also, you talk about the 250,000 people that are able to sell and be part of Plastic Bank, and in 7 different countries, which takes a ton of work to build, to set up. And we had Sam Goldman from D-Light, which has built a kind of a network of entrepreneurs across quite a few different countries in Africa and India, and doing that type of work and enabling that obviously takes time and energy and lots of people. What was your how did you first get that store and that concept started? And was it people that you connected with? Or was this you traveling and putting those kind of pieces together?
Well, I want to, so because Marco, the communication here was at the end of mind. Everyone who's listening to this podcast has to change their way of being. That's what we hope here. We hope that everyone that listens to this ends this with a different way of thinking in the world. So those are going to be my answers, because that's why I'm here. Because it's not necessarily a process. It's a way of being. And so people ask all the time, how'd you do it? And everyone's looking for, step A, step B, step C, step D. But I can tell you that in hindsight, this is the way that it occurred for me, but that is not what I did. And so what was the very origination of the idea? What was the input, the nucleus that started it all? Which is really what people want. And it's much simpler than anyone can imagine. How'd I start? I started telling everyone. I told the cat, I told the dog, I told the kids, I told the wife, I told all of our friends. I would tell everyone that I met. This was the idea. Plastic is money. This is what we're going to do. This is what I'm doing. I wouldn't even say this is what we're going to do. I'm saying this is what I'm doing. I communicated the present tense completion of the project. And I would tell people, and I would tell people, and I would tell people, and then they would come back with oh yeah, but this, or yeah, but that, or you can't do this, or they can't. And I would look and I would learn and listen. And it would give me insight to go, oh, you're right. And I would speak it again. I would speak it with a new reality. And I'd tell someone else, and they'd say, yeah, but this, yeah, but that. And I go, oh, you're right. That's good. That's got to happen too. You're right. And I would change. And I would keep speaking and using my word until eventually there were no more yeah, buts. And it was replaced with yes, and yes, and I know someone. Yes, and I can introduce you. You see, that is the way. You tell, you speak. It's biblical in nature that the world is created through word. Through word. You begin by speaking it into reality. You see, everything is created twice. First in thought, then in form. Let your words be your thoughts. And then, and only then, can it take form. So the first step will always be speaking it.
Yeah, and that example for a lot of people that thinking about entrepreneurship, and I think some people, not to simplify what you're talking about, because it's incredibly difficult to be able to formulate a thought, an idea, and a strategy, and a belief. But some people will call this kind of like a painted picture exercise, where they think about where they want to be in that future, or where they want that to be. And I think a lot of times people don't think about that. They think about the small bit of technology or the issues that they have to overcome, or the challenges versus what is that ultimate outcome. And you obviously are able to articulate and do that. And
yeah, I would challenge that though, Marco. I would challenge that, because I actually don't think that's what people think about. Because I think what they think about is what they will look like if they fail. And they get so caught up in their ego, thinking of their own self-diminishment and what it might prove if they try and it doesn't work. That's where they spend 90% of their time. That's what they think about. See, that's the ego. And when you can find separation from the ego and come to the unlimited consciousness of your being, everything is available. This is a whole separate conversation. But the pursuit of consciousness, the awakening, is what's called for all of us, to create from nothing.
Yeah, and that's the core hope from entrepreneurship. How did you, from a people perspective, work on bringing this to life? Was this done through a co-founder, a partner? How...
I've had, Sean's been with me for, I don't know, like 18 years, I guess. Sean's such a good kid. He's like my boy. And we give him the title of co-founder, but he's just been with me. Like, it's just word. He's just he believes in me, and he believes in the mission and the vision, and he's values aligned, and we work together well. And he's our CTO, building the technology. And it is always through people. It is always through the word of others. It's about using your word in such a way that the enthusiasm is transferred. And so when they're as enthusiastic about the vision and the mission as you are, and they get to use their word in their creation, then more of it comes to life. So yeah, it's all people, as any business is. And at the nucleus of all of that, it's not just about identifying. At the root of it, it's about becoming the person. It's about having the wisdom to be able to identify the right people. That's really the nucleus of business. If I was to distill it, it's about being able to identify, attract, and retain the right people. The rest of it's just commentary.
Yeah, people are incredibly important, and to be able to bring those right type of people need to be also aligned to the right type of mission and the right thought of where it's going to go.
Identifying the right people. It's about having that in your soul. It's about being the right person so that you can see that, so you can identify that. It's about being clear with yourself, being able to articulate, having had used word, understand what your vision is, what the mission is, what the values of the organization are, being able to identify people who can elicit the best in themselves to accomplish it, who are on a journey of self-actualization, who are curious, who thrive in their opportunity to be self-actualized, not managed, not told what to do, but to emerge. And if you create this space for those people to emerge, where will they ever go? They're already at home.
Every week on Someone Like You, we dive into stimulating conversations with founders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and the likes who are consciously and successfully creating sustainable business solutions for the long haul. Tune in every week for a new inspiring conversation on leading climate solutions. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please share it. And also, don't forget, subscribe on the platform of your choice and give us a rating and review. Plastic Bank has two really interesting pieces to me that I'd love to chat with you about. And one is it helps people that are in poverty, and it also helps people, helps the earth and the climate, taking away garbage out of the oceans. And you're able to kind of marry those two ideas together. How big of a problem? You know, we hear about plastics, we hear about microplastics. We know that this is a huge problem, but how big of a problem is this with the amount of waste that kind of goes into our oceans?
I don't think it's a big problem. I think the Earth's going to be fine. Really, like the Earth oceans are fine. Don't even pay no attention to that because in the end, the oceans are going to completely restore, and so will the Earth. It's going to be profound. We won't be here, but the Earth is going to be amazing. It can't wait for us to be gone. We're a virus on the planet. So I don't. You choose. You tell me if it's a problem. From what perspective? From the Earth? Nothing. Zero. Inconsequential. For the species, for this species and every other species that we're murdering, yeah, that's probably an issue.
Yeah.
Is it tipping, the delicate balance of our ecosystem? A lot of people would argue that, yeah, it's causing some challenges. So you decide, problem, not problem. I don't know. I got my own philosophies on humans' right to exist.
I completely understand that perspective of the Earth is going to be fine, and you know, I'm lucky to be I spend a lot of time fly fishing and in nature and in environment, and I've seen what happens when you let things be. It doesn't take that long when you don't mess with nature, and
the blink of an eye. Are you kidding me? What?
Yeah.
What? Crazy.
Yeah.
We've been here for nothingness. You know, I was struck by the learning that dinosaurs were on the Earth so long that dinosaurs were here while there were fossils of dinosaurs.
Yeah. It really is a small amount of time. When you began, I think a lot of people would be interested to understand how, I think a lot of people think when you think about poverty, you're thinking about cleaning up garbage out of the oceans. People would probably just tend to think about nonprofits, building a nonprofit. Why go social enterprise route?
Kill me. I hate the question. Honestly, I swear. Why? Because what's occurred is that business people have a paradigm of business that it's depleting. That's what's occurred. It's been given such a bad rap. And so we think automatically, to do well, it's got to be a charity if you're going to do well in the world. Stop it. And see, out of the paradigm of what you think about is what you end up seeing. If you keep thinking that the only thing that's going to change the world is charities, you won't see that, create that, be that force of regeneration and repair and restoration the world needs. Because it is really, I'm not building a social enterprise. No, I'm not. I'm building a business. My business just happens to have an output of prosperity for all of humanity and the earth. I'm just designing my business that way because that is available. And the more prosperity I build in humanity, the more prosperity comes back to me. And then no one cares. Everyone's high-fiving you because you're building a business that's killing it. One of the most beautiful things I got in the mail yesterday was a check from Waco, Texas, from Katie. And she sent me a check for $100. Just said, for all the beautiful things you do in the world. Like I'm running a business and people are just sending me checks because it touches them so beautifully. That's building a business. That's building a life. And there's no reason that that's not connected. And give up that false narrative that to build a business is not doing good. And in fact, I'd say, Marco, that my entire mission is to launch waves and waves and waves of entrepreneurs to restore and repair and regenerate humanity, to bring an awakening and a consciousness to life. Much more so than the plastic bank itself. The plastic bank is just one expression of the thinking.
And I love that statement because I think people have this, exactly what you said, this narrative that businesses can't be good. And often sometimes and sometimes you'll see nonprofits, unfortunately, where if they were a business structured in that way with the same mission and the same goals and the same outcome that they want to achieve, but were businesses, would probably be much more substantial and
that flourish. They're not coming from a mindset of scarcity because they already come from a mindset of scarcity. They're already, see, the difference between the two is that the charity will take the resource of money, try to deplete it as slowly as possible while making impact. Where the business will take that same resource and try to multiply it as quickly as possible while making impact.
Yeah.
It's just the mind shift is different in the employee and the vision and all of it. And so every charity out there, so the question is, why are you a charity? Why are you a charity? Instead of asking a business, why aren't you a charity? It should be the other way around. You're running a charity? Why? Why don't you turn that into a business?
When you talk about the visioning of,
Please.
the 12 years ago when you were thinking about what Plastic Bank could look like into the future, when you think about that exercise and that visioning, does that change often? Is that something that now 12 years later you've had to rethink what that vision is into the future? And do you go back to that type of thinking and that?
No, the mission changes, but listen, we're 1 billion people gathered together to end poverty. Hasn't changed from day one.
Yeah.
The way we're getting there and the mission that we're embarking on in the current climate and the event, that changes all the time. The vision of a world without waste is clear. So no, we're drawn to that. But let the mission change. Let the mission change. I use the example, and this is the way, and everyone can have their own interpretation, but the way I use vision and mission. The vision is that future. Like, let's say, and not a good example, but it's what I've got in my head. The vision is a free Europe. It's a free Europe out of the regime of the Nazis. The mission today is capture that beach. And so the mission that's relevance to the vision. You capture the beach, new mission. You do that, new mission. But the vision is the same. And so be pliable with your mission. Be steadfast with the vision.
Thinking of the future, and everything that's been built from the 250,000 people, the blockchain of currency that you take from people collecting plastics and turning that into livelihood, where you have a vision. What are some of those mission items over the next kind of few years that can help propel you to kind of getting there?
Yeah, so this is really the power today. So if I powerfully simplify what we do, we've created a digital gamification bottle deposit program for the world's most impoverished communities, where society is gamified through the incentives of poverty elimination, quality education, freedom from disease. That's how we gamify. Beautiful and powerful. Very simple. That's what we do. Worldwide global bottle deposit program that ends up providing credit worthiness so that people can solve their own poverty. It's really beautiful, but very simple. What we're doing today. Uh-huh.
And those are those, when you say empowering those entrepreneurs of tomorrow, is that group of entrepreneurs?
It's them as well. No distinction between the resourceful, because people who live in poverty are massively resourceful. If they're not resourceful, they die. So they're super creative and hungry for entrepreneurship. And they will work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure that they can survive. So you give them a small business and boom. But in the Western communities, what we've done is we've begun to democratize what we do. We're clear that every small business in the end today and the next generation is alive with knowing that there is more for their business than selling house painting or cleaning services or floral or selling chairs, that they want to have a business of purpose as well. And then it's powerful and inspiring for themselves as the entrepreneur, at least, to say that every time something occurs in my business, at minimum, the world gets a little bit better. And that's what we've begun to democratize. We've got a beautiful subscription-based model. It's $199, and it comes with 1,000 bottles of impact. It's $199, and you get the entirety of the suite of images and videos and change and your own dashboard in the blockchain. And it comes with store decals and trophies and things in the store so that you can truly powerfully engage your consumer and your employee. And so you could say every time a transaction occurs, we help the world get a little bit better. And then you can buy more bottles. You can support it. Buy 10,000 bottles at a time so that every time someone buys a high margin product, you give it an incentive. So you can use it in your company to incent change. You see, we continue to be focused on creating a business model that changes the world. And we do that by helping everyone create additional profitability and engagement and making sure they've got a platform that engages their employees and their customers so they can build their own tribe with the customers who are passionate about doing that.
On the side of being able to grow that, you've had some pretty big partners on the buy side of your plastics.
Yeah.
Have you seen that over the last quite a few years really pick up in terms of, corporations engaging?
No, they're dead inside. No. Let's be honest. They're dead. They don't care. They're dead inside. They're all dead. It's public company that's the bane of all of our challenges. It's public. That's the public structure that has resulted in the environmental degradation that we see. And let's be clear, everyone stop talking about climate change. Ridiculous. It's so misplaced. It's like a red herring. Look over there, everyone, because it's business change that we should be talking about. We're talking about climate change instead of looking at the root issue, which is business change. And everyone at Davos or anyone else showed up and said, this is a business change conference, it'd be different. And in the public company, the fiduciary duty, the CEO, is to ensure shareholder return above all else. So to be in a place where the CEO is going to make a decision to buy higher price material would contravene that, and with enough pressure could be jailed. So here you have the CEO of an organization that has the power to make change, unwilling to do that because it would contravene shareholder return. This is why we are where we are, period. Full stop. Try to argue, please. The self-evident truth. Some of the changes we're experiencing in the world are occurring from policy. Within the Philippines has enacted an extended producer responsibility law, which sounds like they are in the process of administering effectively. And every company is now responsible for the volume of material that they put in the environment. They have to report how much material they sell, and they are then responsible to exhibit that they have collected it. That type of policy makes change. Because the CEO, no matter how good-hearted they are, they could be a diver, passionate. They could be doing beach cleanups on their moments off, but they can't do the change in the company. Now have the ability to go to the shareholders and say, it's the law. And as the CEO of the organization, it's my responsibility to uphold the laws of the countries we operate in. This is what will be influencing profitability. It's the way it is.
Yeah, and there are some rules around the SEC that they're trying to institute on the public side of things. But I'm hearing rumbling now that any of those kind of scope 3 emissions that were supposed to be included might now be excluded, which is obviously a very wrong step in the side of it, of that starting. But policy is definitely one of those areas. But do you feel that Plastic Bank has also helped to raise awareness for policy?
I don't care anymore. Like, yes, profoundly. I mean, as one of the originals, I mean, it was my 2017 TED Talk that talked about, walking into the kitchen, the sink's overflowing, and you've got to panic and you've got to reach for a bucket, mop, or a plunger. What do you do first? I was able to express in the truth of it all that what we need to do is turn off the tap. And so why would we mop, plunge, or scoop up the water if we don't turn the tap of plastic flowing into the ocean off first? I attended last year's Plastics Treaty Conference in Paris, the United Nations convening to create a protocol for plastic, and the entirety of the conference is called Turning Off the Tap. Have I had a profound and significant impact in humanity? Yes. Absolutely. It's been beautiful. So much is occurring as a result of using words. Back to the origination of our call. Word. Speak it to everyone. Word, word, word. Proudly as well, during that conference, I had the ability to be with the United States delegation. They are the negotiators and ambassadors, lawyers, in the end, for the United States' position on the treaty. I had some time with them after in a separate call. And as a result of that call, and from the truth that I was able to share with them, they proudly wrote back to say that the United States, as a result of their conversation with me, has changed their position on the way that they were going to be treating the material, not as waste, but as a resource to be collected and not a waste to be managed.
I think you kind of just summarized my last question as we kind of wrap up was, what would you say to people that are listening in terms of, their next step or their first thing to do? And, you say words is obviously a big thing and do that. But is there anything else that you would say to somebody that's kind of, teetering on that kind of, your 12-year thoughts before and what they would do next?
Listen, it's a journey of self. The only reason that you don't begin is because you have a egoic attachment to your own sense of being. And that ego attachment may be, I'm not good enough. or I want to look good, or I don't want to look bad. And that is just thoughts in your head. It has nothing to do with reality. and that is the predominant reason why people don't start and try, because they're afraid that their own worst fears would be substantiated. They think that if they try and fail, it would prove that they're not good enough, then they're not lovable, that they're not worthy. And so when you can come through that transition and come to a point of consciousness where it's inconsequential what other people might think. Are you kidding me? You're like caught up in your life considering other people's egos, just their thoughts in their heads. Oh my goodness, where the greatness lies in the trying. And be reminded that in the trying of it all, that's your journey. That is your becoming. And the trying of it all is where you grow. That's where the wisdom comes from. That's where the richness of life appears. I accept the definition of happiness as the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal or ideal. And to be in witness of the progressive realization of your goal. Oh, who cares about things and stuff, money? What are we doing, everyone? Really? Think of all the time that you spend trying to make money so you can go and buy stuff. And then you bring stuff home and you put stuff on a shelf, and then you got to take care of stuff. And then you even get seasonal stuff where sometimes that stuff comes out only for a little bit. You put it away and you put it again. Stuff, your whole life hidden in things. When what you need to do is be alive, live, create, be, overcome, persevere. Oh, there's so much more and so much less.
David, thank you so much for your words today. And, I hope those words inspire others to kick off and lose that fear and that ego-ness of failing, because we need a lot of people to think and do.
That's all the world needs are courageous people showing up, trying shit, like getting stuff out there, and try this, try that, try this, create a business around making change. Beautiful, amazing. Try. Don't forget the perfect is the enemy of the good enough. You get too many people that want everything to be perfect before they start, but you got no idea what it is even. Go try, go start stuff. Go figure it out as you go. Don't be attached to whether you think it was right or wrong, or if it wasn't right, that means something about you. Go do stuff. I implore you to, for on behalf of all of humanity and all sentient life. Time's now. There's no waiting. There is no later.
I can't say it again. That's it. Try. Get off your ass, this, as they say, and try and fail and leverage that to build what you want to build. David, thank you again for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Someone Like You. We're a new podcast, and I would love if you can do a few things. One, please share the podcast with a friend, a family member, a work colleague, anybody that you can think of that would enjoy learning more about these incredible brands. Please also support these type of companies. They're doing the hard thing, and the hard thing often takes a lot of people to get on board. And don't forget, please subscribe on the platform of your choice and give us a rating and review. I'm Marco Pimentel. Thank you for joining us today. For more information on Someone Like You, you can find us on Instagram at Someone Like You Podcast, with all the links to the podcast, our website, and more information about the brands that we feature. Thank you again.